Yes, welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach, and today, guys, we are going to discuss my brand new Rhino-Rack platform system and backbone system that I just recently installed. Now, to start, we are somewhere completely different. We are not at home, and we're not in the garage. It is about 20 degrees outside and 20-mile-an-hour winds, so we are in my dad's barn. Because this weekend we were doing quite a bit of work to the Jeep, because as I told you guys, we had a few things left to install on the Jeep so that it would be ready for our adventures, and we have pretty much finished up those projects this past weekend. And one of them was installing my brand new platform system, my new roof rack, and the backbone system that it came with. And honestly, guys, the installation process as a whole wasn't terrible. However, there were some pros and cons to certain things. So let's go with some of the pros. In essence, doing the installation, like installing it onto the Jeep, was not difficult. Drilling into the hardtop to install the backbone system, you just kind of do it. And you kind of get over it. The idealism of drilling into the top. You can always seal up a hole if it's wrong. But drilling into the top wasn't too difficult. And the backbone system, the actual installation of that, is really, really straightforward and easy to do. And then building building the actual roof rack and everything, once you figure it out, it isn't difficult. Now that brings us to the cons. The cons were the instructions sucked. Okay, guys. So we've got the top part of the rack built. We're working on the backbone system here. We're gonna have a little bit of a talk about that. I was not pleased with the instructions, but we'll get to that in a bit. So where are we right now? Right now we have got these back braces in here. We've drilled out the holes. We gotta vacuum a little more. And we got them done on both sides. And we're starting to get to the point to where we're going to start putting the caps up here, so then we can eventually mount the top to the caps. It's coming along. It was a bit of a hassle with that thing because the instructions suck. We'll get to that later. I'm sorry to say it, but the materials for the roof rack and the backbone system are really strong and great. They are perfect materials, but the instructions that were provided with the materials were absolutely terrible. There were no words on the instructions. It was just a bunch of terrible pictographs that you had to try and figure out, and nothing made sense. So when we built the roof rack itself, we had to lay it completely all out, like the design, and then go through and then put it all together, just because the instructions didn't make sense to us on how it was supposed to go together and be put together, and the count for the little tiny peg things that you get. It was really confusing and actually really irritating. And then doing the backbone system, the instructions were just as bad, but it was a lot easier to figure out on your own and understand. One thing to note though, if you have that black insulation heat liner trim thing in the Jeep that outlines all the super white fiberglass top, you need to remove those off of the windows, because it will not sit properly against there. So when you drill the holes, it's going to be at an angle instead of how it should be. Yes, I learned the hard way. Because the instructions didn't say it, we figured out the hard way that was the case on one of the sides. So it's something to be aware of. And then the other con was, from every video I had looked up, because we got to a point to where the rack, the roof rack was built. We had the pegs for it to sit on top, but we couldn't figure out the measurements for where the peg legs that go onto the pegs were supposed to sit. And we couldn't. Every video I looked up didn't have it. Everyone kept saying that there were supposed to be measurements, like a fitment chart, measurement chart for the measurements of the peg legs. Well, ours didn't come with those instructions. It did not have that piece of instruction or chart anywhere. So we had no idea what the measurements were supposed to be to spread out the peg legs, so we knew how to get them on there and then just cinch them down and it would be perfect. So we struggled for a while, and then eventually that day we ended because it got really cold. We lost light because online we couldn't find them anywhere we were looking until we got on a regular computer, because our phones we couldn't find it. And luckily my dad was able to find that chart, which will appear here in the video and right above me. That chart with the fitment measurements for the Jeep. And once we had those, it was smooth sailing. It was actually a little irritating because it was so easy. We put them in those spots, tightened those things down, stuck it up there, moved the peg legs so they were sitting on the peg holders, tightened those into place, and then locked it all, tightened it to the roof of the Jeep itself, and it was good to go, guys. I am really excited though with the opportunities this provides. I'm not putting a rooftop tent on the top of it. I'm actually going to be using it to haul things that I normally shove in the Jeep. So on my adventures, it's gonna hold my jerry cans, it's gonna hold my tent, it's gonna hold, if I have any kind of low profile storage boxes, it's just going to hold some of those bigger, bulkier items that I normally stuck in the Jeep. And then it just kind of crowded the back of the platform system, and then I had to kind of shuffle things around to try and get in there. That is all going to be sitting on the top of the Jeep now, which is going to open up the inside of the Jeep, so I have a little more space for camera gear, some of my other things that go in the tent, like my sleeping pad. It's not all going to be mashed in there. And then I also get the jerry can out of the Jeep. I have not enjoyed having that in the Jeep all year, just because it never has smelled, it has never leaked, but just the idealism that it was in the Jeep itself, I didn't really care for. And then, yeah, we're just gonna have so much more space to have things. And then if my dad comes with me on adventures, or if I am adventuring with other people, and I have a co-pilot with me in the Jeep, they have space to put their stuff in the Jeep as well, and it doesn't feel super cramped. Because when I'm on adventures by myself, guys, everything has been, orientated, so it's just for me. But when I have somebody else with me in the Jeep, it becomes a bit harder because things get out of place. Now I'll have a way to put those things somewhere else, and then I'll have all that space, and that's just how it's always gonna. Okay, so let's talk about the roof rack, why I chose it, what are my thoughts on it, because y'all have heard my thought process on the installation. So why did I choose this roof rack? Well, first off, I wanted a roof rack that was going to be a little more low profile to the Jeep, and I could put stuff on it and not worry about the center of gravity too much of it moving, as it does hold quite a bit. I know there are tons and tons of different roof racks out there, and some are like an exoskeleton, which are great. Some connect to the gutter line of the Jeep, which I didn't want because I don't want it to break with too much weight. And I wanted one that just had that reliability, if you will, that durability. And I have never heard anything bad about the Rhino-Rack. Like the platform system and backbone, I've never heard anything bad about it, and people love them. And as I was looking, guys, honestly, I got it over Black Friday. It was on sale, quite a bit off, and I went perfect because it's low profile. And I went with the backbone system because I wanted that extra support for the rear of the Jeep. So when I put extra weight on it, it has some more support with the fiberglass instead of just not being that at all. But that is why I chose that company. And then the materials are very strong. It is a very good it's an aluminum build. It has lots of different hook point places. You can put all sorts of different things. Kind of the sky is the limit if you have the creativity to do so. Like certain things I'm going to be installing is I am going to install some other, movable hook mounts. You can hook to the platform itself, but having some hook mounts that I can easily just kind of slide into where I want them, tighten it down more, and then hook things to it. It's going to make things a little bit easier on me for when I'm on my adventures, because like I said, I'm not putting a rooftop tent on top of it. I'm putting gear, so having the ability to have different hook points that kind of just do the layout of it is going to be perfect. Now, I'm not going to put my traction boards on there or anything. I was able to modify my Fury engraver cages on those back windows. I modified the placement of the top hooks to the gutter, so those still work because I didn't want those up on top. I still wanted to have the back windows protected and have those things, and I have some other things I'm going to be doing to those in the next week or so. I'm revamping one of the sides. But it's going to be great. But the material is very strong. It is super sturdy. We've already had things that have attempted to scratch it. It didn't leave any scratch marks. It left a little line and you wiped it off. It went away. But that is one of the projects that we got done this weekend. So thank you all for joining me today. A list of parts for the Jeep are in the description below, as well as a link to my other social media platforms, guys. The adventure is still going even when this camera's not rolling, guys, so don't forget to go check out those other accounts. Also, hit that subscribe button, guys. We're working on it. We're growing. I am enjoying it, but you guys are what makes this channel happen, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button, guys, and I will see you all next time. Take care.